In this video, I got to round 100 on the new Black Ops 6 Zombies map, using the 4 new elemental swords, testing them out on the high rounds. So firstly, when spawning in, I turned on the Rampage Inducer because this room is enormous, which is very helpful as I'm able to pass the first 11 rounds with absolute ease, allowing me to grab the blue variant of the GS45, which is most definitely the best weapon in the game. I then made my way up to the castle. It doesn't really matter which way I do this, as I'll need to open every area on the map to get these 4 swords anyway. Of course, at the castle's entrance, I need to go up and around to the lion cannon to bulldoze the door open. Inside, I make sure to grab Jug, as yes, I played majority of this map with Rampage Inducer, making it pretty damn intense, but very quick. When making it to the Pack-a-Punch room, I had a bug round, so I made sure to take advantage of this, and I went ahead and broke the locks off the crate, releasing a Doppelgast, an enemy that's intimidating at first, but really it's a bit of a puppy. It's definitely a lot more satisfying to kill as well than the constant mangle spam. And so with him dead, I can teleport Pack-a-Punch and upgrade my weapons into the Mustang and Sally's. I then kill a zombie who has a knight's helmet on top of his head and grab the stamp that he drops, allowing me to grab my first sword. I grab the sword from the Lion Sigil statue first. To actually obtain its magical ability, I simply killed 4 glowing parasites around the map, and once my sword was glowing, I hit this door. I had to then do this another 3 more times, which these traps around the map made a lot easier. These traps are actually really cool. They don't do a lot of damage, but they are really tactically good. Like, you can definitely get to really high rounds just using the traps. So with the lion's door open, I place my sword in the altar, from which it shoots out symbols. The symbol at the front of the altar, I have to shoot with my gun. So you're essentially just matching symbols. Very easy stuff. There is a time limit, however, and I actually failed this the first time, because sometimes I guess the symbols are a little bit hard to see, but trust me, it's actually really easy. You've probably done it already. But good news, if you do fail, just defeat 1 more round of zombies and the door will glow yellow again, which in this game allowed me to claim my first upgraded sword. When using the sword's charged attack, it causes a whirlwind to momentarily spawn around your body, damaging anything that gets in its way. I do say momentarily though, because it lasts such a ridiculous short time. Before starting my second sword, I Pack-a-Punch my pistols again, because we're already at round 19, not to mention the Pack-a-Punch camo on this map looks sick. So now I grab my second sword from the knight with the dragon sigil. I place it in this altar where a 6 sculpture of a dragon gives the obvious hint, and now find 3 different cauldrons that are lit on fire, interacting with them separately, which lights us on fire, so we have to quickly transfer this fire into the dragon and thus the sword. This sword is ridiculously easy and fun to get upgraded. It's also probably the coolest sword in terms of when you actually use its ability. But if you didn't know, these special attacks with the sword need to be charged by killing, I would say, anywhere from 15 to 25 zombies, which is a lot, which considerably nerfs the hell out of them. But we still have 2 more swords to go. The next sword I grabbed was the stag, which for some reason I thought was like the void, not the electric or lightning. So I grabbed this part early for the void sword. And then after like 30 minutes realized I needed to actually grab the electrical parts for this sword. The first one I grabbed was next to Deadshot Daiquiri, and the second one I got by shooting this electrical unit, which dropped my second part. Now the third part took many rounds because the guides I watched just said to kill a zombie with the bastard sword and eventually you'll get the last part. But that's not true. I figured out you have to actually kill an armored zombie, and it has to be within this room called the dungeon, close to the Pack-a-Punch machine. Also, I should mention at round 25, I came back to spawn to grab all the rest of my perks from the Wonder Fizz. So with all the stag sword parts, I can place them on top of this urn looking thing, which causes a storm to brew. Because it was round 34 at this stage, the step wasn't easy as the bastard sword is terrible. So I just had to wait a bit of time until the end of the round where I could take advantage of the peace and quiet to kill some zombies, which charges electricity onto my sword, or lightning I guess, from which I can transfer it onto this urn thing. Once I did this 3 times, I put my sword inside of it, which again transferred the electricity, thus upgrading my third sword. So this one at first looked really cool, but then I realized it only lasts like 3 seconds. So now it's time for the 4th and final sword, and by far the most confusing to upgrade, though relatively easy once you actually understand and crack the code. So of course, if you remember, I already grabbed the first part for this sword in this room here. I then placed this jaw here, which for some reason I confused with deer antlers for like 30 minutes. Anyway, the ring of symbols represent earth, air, water, and fire, whilst the outer ring resembles zodiac signs. From the time of making this video, I may as well show you the equation I followed to crack the code. And then after doing so, these purple balls spawn in, and I didn't know this at first, evidently, but they do follow you. So you have to guide them into these 3 holes that spawn on the floor. This is very easy, and luckily I had a bunch of crawler zombies which made it even easier. And so now I've got my 4th and final sword upgraded, and it's time to get up the rounds and test these guys out. So firstly, Raven Sword. This sword is very good. It will kill everything that runs into its created void, no matter the round. The only issue with this sword is an issue with all the swords. You have to charge them with many kills, as I've already said. Now the sword is good by itself if you have the proper augments on melee macchiato, but up to a certain round it becomes incredibly hard to just hit the zombies in general because the sword isn't really fast enough to swing and the zombies are so damn fast. So I personally really hope Treyarch changes the amount of kills needed to recharge the sword to something like 3 kills, because I feel like that could make things very interesting. I think it would make the high rounds a lot more enjoyable as well, because the Manglers are already way too overpowered and the Mustang and Sallys are also very strong. So why doesn't the Wonder weapon match this? It just seems quite unbalanced in my opinion. But we still have 3 more swords to test in the higher rounds. The next one I did test was the Stag, which sucks, as I could already tell straight away. This thing is terrible. Its only use is if you're interested in being trapped in an animation that slows you down and does barely any damage. It's definitely really cool looking, and I tried testing the swing with the sword recharged, because as you can see, the electricity comes off the sword this way, but really it doesn't have any effect on the zombies, so it's just appearance sake, which kind of sucks. So now the Lion Sword. This one is probably my favorite looking sword. It looks pretty incredible. It's also pretty damn good, except it just lasts too short of a time. Like genuinely, what was Treyarch thinking with how long this lasts? It's so short you risk yourself getting trapped and dying, because in order for it to even work, you have to run into the zombies. So very cool aesthetically, I just wish it lasted longer. So now the ever faithful Fire Sword. Also, on my way back to the first room, I did hit the oil trap and threw a Molotov into it, which did light it up, which is kind of cool. So just like the other 3 swords, I grouped up a bunch of zombies and tested its ability. I was left very, very disappointed when only like 10 zombies died. I mean, genuinely, this is a wonder weapon, and the Shadows of Evil sword is way better. So in the end, the best sword by far, in my opinion, is the Raven Sword. When going to retrieve it for the final time, I accidentally picked up the Stag Sword, and I had to rescue myself with the overpowered combination of the Mustang and Sallys and Frenzied Guard. Genuinely, you can get to round 100 just using these components of the game. It's that overpowered, especially because there's no Manglers on this map, thus no Mangler spam. These are the augments I recommend for Frenzied Guard, by the way. So with the pistols and Frenzied Guard, plus mutant injections when things got way too chaotic, and then sometimes adding in the sword, which by the way I found charged every 2 or 3 rounds naturally, even if you don't use it, I got up the rounds pretty damn quick. Now I mentioned at the start of this video that the first room is crazy big, and it really is. It has the Wonder Fizz for when you go down, it has a large area to run around in, it has armor, and also a basement with a workbench, which enables abusing mutant injections very easy, as the spawns are very quick down here also. So you're basically reclaiming your salvage to a point. Also, bug rounds have been completely revamped, and I spent these rounds down in the basement just spamming my pistols, as these rounds can get pretty intense. This was also a fantastic change Treyarch did. It made getting to round 100 more fun and also a lot quicker, because the bug rounds used to be way too long and boring. So after abusing the mutant injections for a while, because well, why wouldn't you if you have the salvage, I decided to do round 99 only using the sword. And well, immediately I went down. So I've heard they were actually changing the health of the zombies in the high rounds, but I don't think that affects round 100, but rather round 150. Though I swear the zombies were stronger and also had more health. Like, I genuinely got destroyed here, where 30 rounds before, where the zombies are theoretically the same health and strength, I was completely fine. The only difference is there should be more zombies per round, up to around 150 when apparently the zombies get stronger or something. But maybe I'm just seeing into it, and this map is weirdly difficult like most of Black Ops 6 is. Very easy, very hard. So in fear, I did abuse the mutant injection just to make sure I got to round 100, and then I tried to do the exfil on 101 without the Mangler, but I got repeatedly destroyed. So my thoughts on this map. All in all, it's way too early to tell for the high rounds, as I do think they're going to do some big updates and changes, but now I'm really excited to try and beat the Easter egg.